Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us.
We're looking around the globe at those 1,000 best practices that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And Nigeria is one of the largest, most dynamic economies of the African continent. And we're going to be looking at some of their best practices and how these can impact not only the other 53 nations on the African continent, but also can be examples around the globe. With me is Stanley Oranika. He is the chapter leader for the Project Management Institute of Nigeria, and also he is in the Rotary Club of Abuja Ministers Hill. Stanley, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you, Dr. Sam Hancock.
Glad to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about the Project Management Institute of Nigeria, and then let's talk about your main thought on these nature hikes and why this is really a path towards climate action in Nigeria.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Sam, for the opportunity, and thank you, Emerald Planet TV. Well, the Project Management Institute of Nigeria is a project management body that's interested in project management best practices. And over here, we have about 800 members with more than 600 professionals, project management professionals, who are all advocates for best practices in project management.
I think this is absolutely fantastic. And looking at the work that you're doing as far as the nature hikes, why are nature hikes around Abuja, your capital city, so important?
Thank you for that beautiful question. Well, nature hikes around our city of Abuja are important because although they're a new initiative, but we had to do some brainstorming and think of interesting, innovative ways to get young project professionals interested in ways to mitigate climate change and its negative adverse effects on our planet. We decided to use the model city of Abuja to discuss this by gaining high access to the beautiful Twin Peaks in the city center, so we could have a vision of what it was and what it could be and how we could actually affect this change.
I think it's very important that you're actually taking out these project managers and the young professionals to look at Abuja and envision what it can be for the future. It really is a very beautiful city, yet at the same time, you have to deal with the smog that you have. So looking at how to take care of changing the environment, you've developed this small chart for us. Tell us a little bit about that and how that relates through the nature hikes, but also bringing an even better climate to Abuja.
Beautiful. So over here, we're looking at a process chart, and this process chart is a model for professional project management professionals to follow when engaging in projects. From the beginning, you can see the initiating, and then at the initiation stage, we talk about the initiative we're about to take. We develop a sign off a charter. We get other people to have buy-in so that we can carry on with this project. And the moment we get that done, we start with the planning phase. So talking about that, we had to talk about how we could effectively carry a vast number of people on a hike and safely bring them back. So this has to do a lot of planning. And then executing this process had to do with doing it and doing it right. But while the execution is going on, there should be some monitoring and controlling. So it means avoiding risks and looking at mistakes, taking in lessons learned, and probably like imputing them back into the planning process so that we get it right. And the moment is right, we can infuse this back into execution. And then when we're done, we can say, yes, this is a close of a phase or an entire process. And that could lead to an effective routine for the nature hikes.
Now, looking at this, this is interesting. Looking into the camera with Buja to your back, why is it so important that these professionals actually have a chance to be in nature and see it for themselves and not just talk about it in a meeting?
Beautiful. Yes. It's really important that everybody comes to hikes. The good thing is that, just right before we had started looking at the global pandemic of COVID, we had the opportunity to network and to carry out this process of being together, not in a very formal environment, but now in a less stressful environment, having fun, taking a walk, breathing in the airs outside of the office, and getting to the Twin Peak. So that was kind of that was a plus. And this way you could actually get some cardio going too.
Well, then you see another view of Abuja with clear skies. So how do we go from, the smog that we see here to blue skies like this in Abuja?
Well, so Abuja is like a city in the heart of Nigeria. It's a relatively humid place sometimes. Early in the morning, there could be fogs when there's moisture. And somehow we found out that over time, even during the lockdowns, less emissions from industries and pollutions from generators and cars also saw that we had a reduction in smog cover or fog all around the city. So basically, cutting down on these emissions and planting more trees that can offset this carbon, which generally takes in the carbon and emits oxygen, was such a good idea for us. And this was also inculcated into part of the reasons for our nature hike. So we're going to talk about planting trees, offsetting the carbon emissions, and getting our city to beautiful blue skies.
Well, the whole thing about it is you're actually giving people a very practical path forward as far as being able to address the issue. And so it makes it doable, and people feel they can have hope, they can be part of the process, and also they are a solution in themselves. So looking at the total group that you have here, what did you go about to recruit people to come out and be a part of this nature hike? And what was the energy and the excitement about being together like this?
Wow. I can tell you, Dr. Sam, this was phenomenal. Like having all these young professionals come together, the people from the Project Management Institute come together in one voice and say, okay, we're going to wear a uniform sort of like, gear. We're going to get up a hill. And mind you, none of them had actually been up that hill. We had just decided, okay, this hill is in the middle of the city. We're going to drive through it. And when I look at that hill, I'll say, well, I conquered that rock. But also, within doing that, we're going to even accomplish something greater for our beautiful planet Earth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, we gathered ourselves. We talked about it on the groups, in the institutes. And then together we decided, okay, we're going to make a move and do this.
It's amazing, the energy that it took actually to get up. That is an incredible hill that you have right in the middle of Abuja. But it seems like that people were adjusting to this quite well. And what would you think was the amount of reaction that you had from people just by being out there and having the opportunity to see Abuja from a very different perspective, way on top above the city, looking down into the city itself.
Great. Going, also, I'll tell you two things. Going up the hill was tedious, especially to those who were not used to cardio-intensive hikes and walks. And while going up, it was an opportunity to, to stress test yourself, may I say. Getting up the hill was also a lesson, and it was a lesson for everyone because at the top of the hill or on the way up the hill, we had to help each other, lend each other a helping hand at steep parts of the hill because sometimes it gets slopey going up a hill. And everybody gets to learn that, okay, this is a process. We need to do this together. There's got to be teamwork and collaboration. And then right atop the hill, we get a beautiful different view of the city. So the large monument of the city gate now looks as tiny as a head of a pin. And you can now see, oh, this is what we've been doing to our earth. It's scorched here. There's no trees here. Perhaps if there are more trees here, it'll be more beautiful. And that's the kind of ideology we had to do an inception for it.
Well, you can definitely see the enthusiasm as far as, in essence, conquering the hill. But at the same time, it looks like you're developing camaraderie, allowing for communications among these different professionals because they come from different backgrounds. So how do you think you're able to expand the involvement in your project as far as nature hikes and having future nature hikes by this type of communications and camaraderie?
Beautiful. So such an interesting thing about this project was the fact that we could connect, we could talk to ourselves on not just on formal basis now, but on a semi-formal or less formal in a casual environment. And I'm hoping that the excitement that was here could be shown all around the world so that people could understand the concept and they could infuse this into their curriculum so that basically there could be walks and there could be there could be that interest in the environment instilled in people's hearts. It's meant to be a natural, non-formal way of creating an enthusiasm in our planet. And it definitely also is an opportunity for networking and communicating and connection all across the world.
That's absolutely fantastic. Well, you can see some of this right here as far as the camaraderie, people sitting together and talking about their experience, what they're doing there, the purpose of it. So when you're looking at these photographs, what do you think about the future and how do you see the future over the next 1, 3, 4, 5 years of having and expanding on these nature walks?
Okay, so like over there in that picture, you can see that's Engineer Anne. She's an environmental specialist, and there she's over there with a doctor, Dr. Paul, who was also a volunteer and also decided to assist us up this hill. Now, the strategic thing about networking, over here you can see that's also Dr. Vivian, and that's myself, and these are my friends. They're also, that's a broadcaster. I can see Engineer Ayo. So the thing is that this whole thing creates an atmosphere of communication, and I believe that if this is sustained over the next 3 to 5 years, it could be imbibed into the curriculum such that it's not just professionals now doing this, but we're looking at, primary schools, kindergarten pupils taking walks and having more interest and understanding of the effect of the human footprints on the earth, trying to offset this, talking about tree plantings, talking about effective waste management, talking about innovative ways to regreen our planet.
This is Stanley Oranika, the chapter leader for Project Management Institute Nigeria. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet. Looking at the country of Nigeria and its capital city of Abuja, we're looking at best practices in that country that may be examples not only across the African continent, but around the globe. And we're going to be talking about waste management and sustainability. And this is Rotarian George Hembah. He is the president of the Rotary Club of Abuja, Ministers Hill, and also he is the CEO of Hissing Consulting Limited. George, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much. Nice to be invited here.
Well, we're
Dr.
glad to
Sam.
have you. Tell us a little bit about the Rotary Club of Abuja, Ministers Hill.
Well, Rotary Club of Abuja Ministers Hill started about 7 years ago on the 15th of July, 2013, to be precise. And we grew from a membership of about 5 to currently we're 22. And Rotary Club basically is into humanitarian services, which covers the 6 areas of focus, which is basically education, right? That's basic education and literacy, peace and conflict resolution, empowerment, water sanitation and hygiene, maternal and child health, and disease prevention and control. Yeah, so as a Rotarian, we are meant to cover or render humanitarian aid in any of these 6 areas of focus.
That's absolutely fantastic. We're going to be talking about waste management and sustainability. Why is that so important for Abuja and Nigeria to bring about innovation in waste management?
Well, there's a lot of waste presently in Abuja and Nigeria as a whole. And the need for us to create different ways of carrying out some innovative methods is to improve the living standards of people. It's also to help in preventing a lot of disease prevention and control, because where there's a lot of waste, it comes about so many forms of diseases. So with the reduction of it, it also helps in reducing that aspect of diseases. So in the area of innovations, as a Rotarian, we look out for different ways in which we can manage the waste products in our country, Nigeria, and Abuja, where we are centered at right now.
That's fantastic. Now, looking at some of the innovations that you're doing there, things are very simple, as they should be. So tell us what we're looking at here, and we're going to be going through some of the best practices that actually are being implemented in Abuja and Nigeria.
Well, this is a biotechnology, and although it's locally fabricated, because getting fabrications from the western parts will be very expensive based on the foreign exchange. So we decide to do things locally with our natural resources. So this is a local fabricated, innovative biotechnology. And the whole essence of this is converting waste into an end product, which will be used in either providing some form of manure for the soils that is within the horizon.
And the next process, again, using local materials and local labor?
Yeah, it's still the same process. This is actually how it's being manufactured. So this is the manufacturing process, and this is how it starts. So we start from this process and build it up. So here you could see the locals carrying out the plants, setting up the plants, starting from the ground, starting from the digging and having it dug up. Then we now start building the other process and fixing in the other peripherals that will make it up properly.
The interesting thing about this, George, is that you're using local labor, of course, but also local materials and adapting it to the reality of not only the urban areas of Nigeria and within Abuja itself, but also for rural areas around the country. So it looks like that you want to develop these best practices, but expand it across the whole country.
Yes, it's easier for us to use the local practice because it's going to be cheaper And then the manpower and technical know-how is a bit easier as compared to using the Western products. So it's easier and easier to also maintain because everything is done locally. So even in the area of maintenance, it's easier for us to take time out to maintain it properly.
I think that's an excellent point, George. Many people think about the technologies, putting in whatever the latest technology may be, or even using traditional materials, but little thought is given to the long-term maintenance and repair, and that's something that you're already thinking about. So, in a sense, that's a best practice in itself. But the whole thing
Thank
about it
you.
is a lot of local labor does go into these types of projects, doesn't it?
Yes, as you could see in this other slide here, it shows a typical example of a local taking out time to do his construction work. And everything we are doing is from natural resources. So this is a typical personnel on the field carrying out his own assignment. His own duty here is to mold the blocks. And this is locally molding the blocks, preparing a preparation stage for molding the blocks. So that's what you can see, that everything we are doing is local. Everything we are doing is from natural resources. And even the tools, instead of using the conventional tools, we are using more of the local tools. Over here, the next slide you're seeing, okay. So that's why you could see he's practically using his hands to show that he's not using any modern equipment, but then using the proper ways of doing it locally and using his skills also.
Yeah, that's very important. Looking at the recycling, this is something that is a big effort now in Nigeria to recycle the waste because you're getting very high quality waste in these days, and it seems strange to talk about high quality waste, but plastics, aluminum, steel, many other recyclable areas. So how is that actually helping to solve the waste issue in Nigeria for using recycling?
Well, we have a culture of a lot of waste in our country. You know, for some strange reasons, we are having this culture of so many waste. A typical Nigerian goes on the streets, takes a snack and throws it on the floor, and probably take a drink and throws it on the floor without having to put it in a proper bin. So one of the agencies called the Abuja Environmental Agency, which by extension is of the Environmental Agency, is responsible for gathering all this waste from the aluminum to the plastic to the woods and trying to recycle them and turn them into an end product. So what we are seeing in this slide here are the collections of products, the wasted products that have been collected over time, and then they are prepared for being recycled to carry out end products such as papers, such as some form of designs, furnitures, because you could use some woods and convert them into making some lovely furnitures, artistic furnitures. So this picture here depicts us, the collection of all this waste together and preparing it for the recycling process.
That's absolutely wonderful. Looking at this cycle here, tell us a little bit about this, and how do you think that Abuja, the capital, and Nigeria as the country are actually more and more involved in this cycle of using waste and turning it into useful products?
Well, right now, Nigeria and Abuja is becoming more enlightened and sees that recycling becomes the order of the day. Because instead of us having to import items from outside the country, we could convert our waste into some end products. So here is a typical example in Abuja where you could convert any single from, it starts from the products that it can be reused. So it shows that once you recycle it properly, it could be reused for either setting up some other plants. So it brings about opportunities in employment, because people now get to sort out the waste. They're sorting out the plastic, they're sorting out the wood, they're sorting out the aluminum, and placing it to where it can be converted into proper use again. So this is a typical example of us recovering the waste, which we saw in the other pictures. After recovering it, it's now been recycled based on the machineries that have been put in place. And then the end product is it being reused to satisfy some certain things that are in need in the country.
Yeah.
So as I said, we're trying to reduce the aspect of importing items when we could actually reuse some of these items again and again and again. So it's reducing the cost. It's reducing the cost.
Yeah, and also is a substitution for imports. So this is all about the various recycling, paper, glass, plastic, metal that's going into your process. But looking at making various products and then getting to the plants, and this is something we're going to talk about with you further. But why is it so important that you use the local materials, turning the waste into fertilizer for agriculture? And this is one of the last questions. We got to be quick.
Okay. Now, in recycling, you also have some residual products that comes out of it. And most of these residual products are excellent, they are perfect products that are used in planting for manures, for production of fertilizers, and all. So in recycling, the residual products are being sorted out and kept for the purpose of agriculture. Agriculture is going to become, it is already the norm, and it's a major source of generating funds for the country. So with having agriculture being, with having the residual product being recycled and converted into fertilizers, it helps in boosting the soil, and at the end of the day, it helps also in producing food, because when you have a good fertilizer being used in your soil, it helps in the formation process of whatever your crops.
And then at the end of the day, George Hembah, he's president of the Rotary Club of Bujuja, Ministers Hill. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet. Looking at the country of Nigeria and its capital city, Abuja, one of the things that they're attempting to do is to replant the trees that once graced most of Nigeria, and to allow the city and the nation to start using trees to remove the carbon that's been emitted into the atmosphere. And we have the Rotary Club of Abuja Ministers Hill that's taking the leadership for this tree planting effort. We have with us Rotarian George Hembah. He's the president of the Rotary Club of Abuja Ministers Hill. And also he's the CEO of Hissing Consulting Limited. George, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sam. I'm happy to be with you.
Looking at tree planting, this is something that Rotary clubs are doing all across the world, and of course within Nigeria itself. Why is tree planting by Rotary International and its local clubs so important?
Well, Rotary Club is into 6 areas of focus, and that's basic education and literacy, peace and conflict resolution, empowerment, youth empowerment and development, maternal and child health, and disease prevention and control. Tree planting is very important because it covers 3 out of the 6 areas of focus. Why does it cover that? Why is that important? Again, is because it's going to take care of the needs of food. It's going to take care of medicines, because out of the production, when trees are being planted, you have the plants can also produce medicine. It can also produce some local foods in different regions, especially here in Nigeria. So in the area of disease prevention and control, it takes care of that. That's the medical side, the medicinal side of it. In the area of maternal and child health, it also takes care of still medicine. In the area of empowerment, it takes care of future income. So there are some certain trees that will bring about income to the community at large.
Now, looking at the planting, looks like it's something that's very precise. We're actually measuring it, but you're involving young people in the tree planting. Why is it, one, important to have young people involved in tree planting? And secondly, why does this become a group process?
Well, we're involving young people so that they inculcate the attitude of understanding the need for climate change and why it's important to have trees, because with trees, it creates shelter. As I said earlier, it also creates the medicinal value. So young people are part of it to understand from the scratch why it's important and interesting for them to get involved right from the youth. Just like I said, another area of focus in Rotary has to do with basic education and literacy. So that covers the area of tree planting, because people get to understand the educational aspect. And one of the educational aspects is when they are being trained to understand the need for funds that will be generated, soil fertility,
and
medicine,
also protecting the environment itself.
and also protecting the environment at large. Yes.
Now, looking at these children and with their trees, it seems like over time, I've been involved in this actually since I was their age myself, about 8 years of
Oh,
age.
really?
And the whole thing about when you plant a tree, you almost become connected to the tree and the soil where it's planted. How does this change attitudes about the nature and about greenery when these youth actually plant their own trees?
It educates a child planting a tree in so many aspects. They learn to nurture the tree, and then they also learn to observe the process of its growth, from its sprouting and its growth to a full-blown tree. And then it also connects them. It connects a child to understand, or makes a child a little bit more responsible for the tree. So right from the nurturing stage, he begins to learn to be responsible, that he's responsible for the plants that he has planted and nurturing it. And he begins to feel a sense of belonging by being part of what is the growing process. And it also shows a progression. As the tree is also progressing, they feel a sense of fulfillment as a child, and it boosts as a person their personal morale.
Yeah, it's really important. It's amazing the number of youth you're getting involved through the schools and being sponsored through the Rotary Club. What other organizations besides Rotary are working with the youth and involved with the tree planting process?
Well, aside Rotary, one of the organizations we partnered with is the Abuja Environmental Protection Board. The Environmental Protection Board is in charge of evacuation of waste, and at the same time, They are also, it's an agency that is also in charge of, aside evacuation of waste, they are also in charge of tree planting and environmental protected materials. And tree planting is one of the environmental progressions. So you have the Environmental Protection Board, you have some other local agencies that are also involved in tree planting. You know, some time ago, they had to even stop the issue of falling trees. That's some other agencies. You know, but the most important body in Nigeria, in Abuja to be precise, is the Environmental Protection Board.
That's absolutely fantastic. Well, it's obvious that there's a different variety of trees, and which
Yes.
trees are very important to the future of Nigeria, both from environmental protection aspects, but also income for local citizens, and also as raw materials for production of needed building materials and other types of construction needs in Nigeria.
One of the trees that we planted because we had to be strategic is the name Moringa oleifera. Now, Moringa oleifera is a drought-resistant form of tree. The beautiful thing about Moringa oleifera is that it's fast-growing. It's a fast-growing tree, and it can be reached at a certain height. And then it has a lot of nutritional benefits. So this tree, the Moringa oleifera, happens to be one of the economic trees. And it's important to plant economic trees because all economic trees has benefits. For example, the Moringa oleifera that we planted has in the health area, it covers things like vitamin C, vitamin B, and also vitamin K. You know, so, and then the Moringa oleifera also helps in the preparation of the soil, which is very important for any other tree to be planted.
So this is really a very important species as far as Nigeria is concerned.
Yes, it's a very important species of tree. Yes.
Now, looking at planting the
Yes.
trees and preparing the soil, is there any special techniques that are needed as far as getting the soil ready to plant the trees so that they'll have a greater success of surviving and growth?
Well, there are. One of the steps is to ensure that in tree planting, the first most important thing is preparing the soil. If the soil is well prepared, then you could plant any form of tree and be rest assured that it will grow well. Another thing that is important is the protection of the tree from intruders, from kids, such as kids, or any form of intruders, even some beasts and pests. So we ensure that aside the preparation of the soil, the environment where the trees are being planted are well protected by fencing. And in fencing, of course, you have different types of fencing, from the chain link fencing to the bamboo fencing. But it's to ensure that the place is well protected. And then, of course, the general maintenance by bringing in the manpower of farmers to make sure that to ensure that the tree is planted and then pruned from weeds so that it grows properly. So those are the measures that have been put in place to see to it that it's well taken care of.
That's absolutely incredible. Well, again, going to youth being involved, and we're just about running out of time, George, so we have to be quick. Tell us what you've seen over the years of the tree planting as far as the youth and their actual affinity and love for their trees.
Well, there's a lot they are seeing. They are seeing that one, as I said, the economic benefits. So at the end of the day, when the trees grows to full maturity, there's a lot of economic benefits. For example, like the Moringa orifera, as I mentioned earlier, that was one of the trees that was being planted. They could sell the leaves. So they are growing and nurturing it with the hope of selling it. They're also seeing the possibility of they're also seeing the possibility of home production. In terms of food, because there's some kind of local foods that are being consumed here in Nigeria from such kind of plant.
This is Rotarian George Hembah, President of Rotary Club of Abuja, Ministers Hill. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet. Looking at the country of Nigeria and its capital city, Abuja, one of the things is sustainable nutrition and local production of food. This is something that Stanley Oranika is the project lead for the Project Management Institute of Nigeria, and also he is the International Services Director of the Rotary Club of Abuja, Ministers Hill. Stanley, welcome back to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much, Uncle Sam. I'm glad to be back on the Emerald TV.
Looking at sustainable agriculture in Nigeria and the future opportunities for the youth, why is permaculture so important in Nigeria as we're moving through the 21st century?
Well, Africa is a very large continent, and it's also a continent that relies heavily on its agricultural produce for the sustenance of the human beings who live here. About 54% of Africans rely on agriculture for a means of livelihood. And the importance of agriculture in their livelihoods cannot be underemphasized, because right now a lot of young people are moving towards oil and other means to get their livelihoods together. But we're thinking that Africa, because of its potentials and arable land, can focus more on food production and getting the youth involved in this.
Now, looking at your position as the International Services Director for the Rotary Club of Abuja, Ministers Hill, how does that tie directly into sustainable agriculture and sustainable nutrition?
Well, yeah, so a lot of times when we talk about agriculture and its practice here and all over the world, sometimes it happens that people forget that agriculture could be sustained, and also the environment itself could be well taken care of. So this means when you're taking from the soil, or when you're taking from earth, you're giving back to it as well. And particularly providing a model for sustainability, we have looked at permaculture and how it can become a permanent culture for people. So this means scaling down the large-scale agricultural model into a home size, a home garden model. And this is replicated already so many parts of the world. However, we're trying to imbibe that culture over here. And as International Service Director of Rotary, I'm trying to connect to my peers so that basically we can start projects like this and create more awareness about this kind of projects all over the world.
That's absolutely fantastic. This is something that as soon as I saw this, I knew what you were doing, because I was on the African continent some decades ago looking at sustainable agriculture in 7 different African nations. But you call this a chicken tractor. Tell us what is happening here and why is this important as far as local farmers and even local youth to create employment and earnings for themselves?
Beautiful. So a chicken tractor is a very simple and very innovative economical idea in the sense that chickens kept in the chicken tractor basically can feed on the grass. So this means your poultry is being fed by grass, and the meat you get from the grass is actually cleaner. And also, they have a way of infusing certain elements through their feces into the soil that can create manure. So it's more like creating an organic form of manure in the soil. When they scratch the earth and when they feed on it, the worms there, they have a way of making the soil fertile for your acre, for your land and farmland. This is a win-win because it's not inorganic, but this time it's an organic way of fertilizing the soil.
This is kind of the epitome of range fed, but using a means to protect the chickens from wild animals and other persons. But looking at the food in
Absolutely.
the local markets, this is really beautiful produce. And what is happening as far as Nigeria is concerned? At one time, it was a big importer of food, but my understanding is now more and more it is producing its own food.
Yes. So the thing is that Nigeria, because it's one of the highest producers of oil, has generally focused more on its earnings and foreign export or GDP from oil, forgetting fully well that agriculture could also play a very huge role in generating income and wealth for its citizens. So over here, you can see that we've got arable lands. I also like to let you know Nigeria is the highest importer of tomatoes all across the world. And this is not right because Nigeria also has the potential to grow tomatoes to feed the whole of Africa or the world. But here, because of that imbalance and the wrong focus on other means of livelihood, we're forgetting what we really have and forgetting the fact that we can actually sustain ourselves through farming on our own land.
Yeah, this is something, again, using local produce. It's fresh, but you're providing employment for tens of thousands of people that may otherwise not have it if they're not producing food and selling it in the local markets or even in the restaurants and cafeterias and other places processing food. So, how is this so important for women to be involved in food production?
Yes. Food production is the basis. It's just like the energy, that drives the human being. So, I mean, it's also a way of livelihood. So it means those young people who have, maybe did not have the opportunity to get some higher education can also like use this as a means to feed their families and to take care of other basic necessities. So it's sort of a way of getting people to live out of the poverty line. It's a win-win when we can encourage the young people to have interest in agriculture, starting from their backyards, starting from the little arable lands, the wasteland just right out there in the outback, and planting and cultivating beautiful crops, produce, and giving an opportunity for making some money and creating and generating wealth.
And also, too, this is really creating a whole new future, not only for the families and the individuals that are involved in agriculture, but for Nigeria itself, because it is a very fertile country. Even though it has oil and
Mhm.
natural gas, the soil is actually one of its greatest assets and benefits. But when you're looking at food just like this, you understand that Nigeria itself could actually become self sufficient in foodstuffs. So, what through your Rotary Club and through the Ministry of Agriculture, other government ministries, how can people realize that agriculture can be the new green economy for Nigeria, but also for the world?
Yes, we could create a new economy, and for just from Nigeria would be a pilot scale. If the rest of the world could model after the systems that got put in place in Nigeria. So Nigeria has got all these beautiful places and institutes for study with like tropical agriculture. And however, the model and the mode of growing a home garden or fruit forest has also taken effect and been an example that I'd like to focus on. For example, over here, you can see there's a young lady, she's got all this farm produce, and the nutritious, beautiful nutrients that could be gotten from this could also enhance the livelihoods of the citizens by giving them immunity against diseases and the rest of the likes. So this is something that is that Nigeria could harness, because even the produce from our soils are quite unique, and they are potentials for cash crops and commodities that could be exported to generate wealth for our country, Nigeria.
Yeah, and the whole thing about water catchment and stormwater control, how is the irrigation so important as far as the people and also the production of agriculture in Nigeria?
Right. So Nigeria is basically divided into belts. On the upper region, you have the Sahel savannas, and then down you have the monsoon rainforest. However, in the middle belt, sometimes there could be like an imbalance in rainfalls, and then sometimes you have really dry seasons. It's always very good that when you have an area that you want to cultivate or farm on, you should be able to have a catchment for water. So it means the water, you're going to work with the natural flow of water. It means trapping water, maybe on a rooftop or from a hillside, and creating proper irrigation, and sometimes creating ditches and dips so that the water can be sustained in some parts of the areas and channeled properly for the soil to enable, it could be used for, when the water is well kept and safe, it could be used for growing fish, and it could also be used for feeding the livestock that you have on your farm. So that's very important as well.
So actually, water harvesting really is something that's widespread across Nigeria, very useful, as you say, from many different standpoints and aspects. But something you don't really think about with Nigeria is fish. Even though you have a long coastline, tell us a little bit about fish and why is that so important to the diet of Nigerians?
Right. So just something you may not know, but Nigeria is the biggest producer of catfish right now, to speak. So we have people coming from all over the world and many other countries in Africa to study our methods of fish farming. So it means aquaculture basically has taken the forefront in producing the protein nutrients that Nigerians need. Catfish is a very easy, it's relatively easy. I wouldn't say very easy until you get into it, but it's relatively easy to take care of the fish and the fingerlings and see them grow real quick into mature, sources for income when they are being sold, or sources of nutrients and protein when they are eaten. And so Nigeria is at the forefront of that, and we're even coming out with more means of innovation and encouragement, and also providing government facility as in the form of small-scale loans for young people who are interested in agriculture to tap into, so that we can actually build this aspect of our homegrown agriculture.
That's absolutely fantastic. This is Stanley Oranika. He is the project management leader for the Management Institute of Nigeria. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.